Ew! What is up? What is happening? Hope everybody's doing well. So, we got a big video here. We're going to talk about tips and tricks, how to 100% variant 2. We're going to go through each fight, each path, and talk about it. I'm going to talk about my experience with it, kind of champ suggestions, strategy suggestions. Now, I'm not going to go through like every single champ that's good for every single path. Variant 2 has a wide berth for what champs you can use. Obviously, extra large champs are where it's at. Large champs are great. Heavies, specials can't be glanced. Mediums, some medium champs are still fantastic. You can go heavies and L3s. So champs like Beardo are great for that. I use Beardo a lot. But anyways, so let's get into it. We're chapter 1, 1.1. I'm just going to bring in like whatever team. It doesn't matter. So first things first, you got a bleed vulnerability, but increased power gain to the left. You don't want to bleed cable. You got a magic over here, which I think isn't. I still rock Gulk, even though it's a bleed vulnerability. So if you want to run Venom on this path for most of the fights, that's definitely going to work. You could use a 550 Venom, no worries there, because it's bleed vulnerability, so whenever they're bleeding, they're going to be taking a ton of damage. When you take on this Havoc, make sure, if you want to run your Venom, you want to make sure you rotate your buffs till you get that armor buff, and then you're straight, and you're just going to be using L1s. This Hyperion is going to be a little touchy, be careful with him. I think I just used Venom still, though. You just get some good RNG, and you can restart this fight over and over again until you take him down, you know what I mean? Okay, so then you've got the aggressive Fury down to the right here that runs all the way through Old Man Logan into Angela and to Mordo. So what you can do here, you can cheese this with Electro and Heimdall. So you basically let them build up to about 10 Furies. You just kind of wait it out, and then you get Heimdall on your team, so you don't die. They do a couple hits into you, they're dead. So you can just rinse and repeat that all the way through. Now you've got a poison over here with Void and Green Goblin. So the cool things about the way they did the poison in Variant 2 is it's not a poison that starts at the beginning of the fight. So therefore, if you have a maxed out Beardo or a high sig Beardo with a skill on your team, as long as you have a charge, you can just remove that poison. So Beardo is a fantastic option for these poison paths. You can just like parry heavy, parry heavy, parry heavy, all the way up to an L3. L3s cannot be glanced. You toss an L3. Beardo did a lot for me throughout Variant 2. And then you have this final boss who has the it's Iron Man animations. Super easy. He's got bleed and poison vulnerability, so you can kind of use anybody for this one. Okay, so that's that. Let's jump over to 1.2. Now 1.2, oops, that's not 1.2. 1.2, whatever that is, secret, a strange secret. Now, I think 1.2 for me has the hardest path in the entire everything of Variant 2. And it really comes down to this Korg. So first things first is you're gonna go against a Black Widow with dash vulnerability, so you can kind of use anybody for that node. There's not a big problem here. Obviously, I think it's a well-known fact that Domino with synergies, even if you ever at 550, 455, at best 565 or rank 2 6-star, is like the absolute monster for most of Variant, just parry heavying and just shredding fights in 10 to 12 hits. Fantastic. That doesn't work here because you can't use her regular attacks and you can't punish Korg's heavy. It's a little bit harder to get those heavies off and incinerates off. Spite Buffet. You need to heal block this guy. Now, if you've got a big beastie Void and you were able to take a lot of damage, you might be able to pull this off with Void, but his hits are going to be glanced. It's hard to get heavies on Korg when he has his charges. So I went Sentinel. Sentinel was a decent option for this fight. Constant power lock. if you have a 565 Sentinel and you can boost up, I think this fight won't be too bad. I kind of had to slug through it with a 455 Sentinel. A 550 Sentinel, if you could get some 30% boost, could handle it. You could do it with a Gulk who's got a constant heal block. Really, heal block's the name of the game, right? So that's what you want to. That's the focus for this fight, is heal block and some revives. If you can get the solo on this fight, fantastic. I think Omega is fantastic. I think you could definitely get some solos with Omega, because I think you can punish Korg's heavy with Omega's heavy because it's so reachy. So I think Omega's probably your best bet here, but I didn't have an Omega, so I kind of had to slug through it. Then you've got a difficult, not as difficult of a fight, but kind of a tough fight. You got Killmonger over here. So again, I went Domino for this one, just because I can out-damage everything. Sentinel's decent because you can armor break. Any armor break champs are going to be fantastic there. So you could do King Groot. Might be pretty good, but it's Spite, so all those buffs you have are going to be giving him kind of a constant power gain. But you can land basically a permanent armor break with King Groot. So, and King Groot's extra large. That's a pretty decent option. And then you get up into here, and pretty normal fight. Still buff and Spite, but it's much more manageable because Cyclops is a pretty easy champ to use or to fight. And then you've got Magic over here. Again, if I ever saw a Magic, I was going to bring my Gulk. Gulk's such a fantastic option for Magic. Now, you could also just bring your Blade, and you could just parry heavy and L3, and that's totally fine. You shut down basically all of her abilities. So, you know, keep that in mind. If you ever see a Magic and you want to bring a Blade, that's totally fine. You can just parry heavy, parry heavy. Okay, so then moving over to the right, it's not really that big of a deal because you have dash vulnerability. For these fights, I took Blade, actually, for the Hood and Mephisto. It just sorts it out pretty easily. And then you've got Nightcrawler, again, dash vulnerability, You've got Domino over here. You got to be kind of careful with Domino, because especially because she has enhanced abilities, so she's going to be, like, basically crit failing almost all your stuff. But it's dash vulnerability, so you're going to be doing a lot of damage. So I think I use Sentinel here. I think anybody's pretty manageable. You just got to kind of know how to fight her. Okay, and then, so I think the hardest thing about this as well is that you have to fight this Korg twice, which was not awesome. So you got to go through that again, and then you go over to this Ultron, who's got Arc Overload and Limber. Again, if you can run Domino, even at 550, and you bring your Massacre synergy along with the Rolk, you don't need to worry about Limber, basically. And I just want to reiterate that 550 Dominoes work very well throughout the entire map. Especially if you can boost her up, she still does crazy damage. And the fact that her L3s don't glance, you can still get big, crazy crit bleeds on certain fights, so yeah, fantastic. Then you're going to run over here to Sabretooth. Again, if you want to run a Void, you can just kind of parry heavy and build up your charges. You can usually run, like, the L1 doesn't do very much damage at all, so even if you glance the L1, I was using my 550 Void for some fights and it was totally manageable. Then you got a Rogue who shouldn't be a problem, but then you got to fight the Domino again, but you got dash vulnerability, so it shouldn't be an issue. And then the final boss is, what do we get? It's nothing crazy. I honestly don't, oh yeah, I think it's just Cyclops' specials, so I don't think you really need to worry about this one either. Pretty straightforward fight. Alright, so in my opinion, that's the hardest chapter in the entire thing. 1.2 for me was the toughest. I know some people are talking about other fights being hard, but I honestly thought that was probably the hardest. Okay, so now we're going to go into 1.3, which is super straightforward except for the final boss, which can be a little touchy. So basically, you got a big poison path, but it is the poison that doesn't start at the beginning of the fight. It's going to be rotating through, so Beardo is a great, fantastic option. Even a 550 Beardo is going to work very well, just because you're still getting those 0 parry damage. You're still crushing. So you got a thing over here that I used, Hyperion. Now, Hyperion's a fantastic option for Thing, and I'll tell you why. His heavy does 5 hits. So, and when you do 3 heavies, you just about push him to a bar of power. So if you can get a nice little rotation going, you can just parry heavy, parry heavy, parry heavy. He's got 15 hits in a special. He dumps his charges, and you just rotate that. Maybe you sneak in an L1 or L2 because Hyperion's a large champ, and he's not going to glance those specials. So, yeah, you're going to basically run through Blade, who's got the poison, but it really shouldn't be a problem here. You really just need a poison immune, and you can basically run through all these fights. Sim Supreme, I know some people might look at him and think he's a little scary looking, but his health pool is actually one of the lower health pools in the game. So it's super easy to just crush through him if you can get some good RNG on a few champs. Just, you know, I think I beardoed him and just absolutely annihilated him. Now you've got Domino over here. You can just use Gulk though. Fantastic option. Gulk's such a good option for Domino. 550 Gulk is going to be fantastic. I think Gulk is the MVP for this entire chapter because coming up here you've got Starburst. So even if you only have a 550 Gulk, run that Gulk. You got a 6-star Gulk, even better. You got I think I had a 5-star Gulk ranked up. Fantastic. You're gonna have to come up to this Magneto. Now, the thing about this Magneto is he's got a massive power gain. Basically, what I did is I ran Beardo. You got to know how to evade Magneto's L2. Now, quick tip for evading Magneto's L2. Evade it like as soon as you see the animation happening. Unless you're fully across the screen, you got to give it like a half second. But dude, if you're anywhere but the farthest away from him, evade immediately and you got it. It's easy to evade. I know a lot of people maybe people get a little worried about it, but dude, super easy. Basically, the rotation I ran was with Beardo. 2 heavies brings him just short of a 3rd bar of power. So you go 2 heavies with Beardo, evade the L2. 2 heavies, evade. And just rinse and repeat. And totally manageable fight. You just got to kind of understand how to evade his L2. Okay, guys, cool. So that is the end of Chapter 1. I'll check you guys later. Peace.
Hi guys, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button.